So I think let's go ahead and get started, Joe. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
So
Welcome, everyone.
my name is Trevor. I didn't think I introduced myself yet, but
And my name is Joey.
fantastic.
And welcome to Dubsado in action. Just to kind of paint the picture for what we'll be doing today, this is a very intro-friendly sort of demo of sorts. What we're looking to do is get everyone up to speed on becoming familiar with the most crucial aspects of Dubsado so you can identify, what that does for you and your business. We won't be digging too into the deep, and I would say we're not going to go too far into all the different features, but we want to highlight what we call sort of the greatest
The
hits.
greatest hits. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We're doing a victory lap on all of our best features, features that we know that the vast majority of our users get a ton of value out of. And we're just going to go through it, like you said, live demo, walking you through the ins and outs of what Dubsado has to offer for your business. If you are a small business, if you're a service-based business, you are in the right place.
Agreed.
Dubsado is just a fantastic platform for y'all, and I'm excited to jump into it. What do you say?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dig in.
Cool.
Again, regardless of any kind of prior software knowledge, if you're using something similar, if this is your very first business software that you've considered using, you're in the right place. So we'll go ahead and share our screen and get started.
Cool.
You good to go here?
Fantastic. Looks like it. So
Awesome.
Cool.
So what everyone is, excuse me, what everyone is seeing here is what we call our projects dashboard. Now, this is very much like your command center on a day-to-day basis. This is going to give you the best overhead view for how all of your clients are managing throughout your client process from the moment they inquire all the way up until you're done working with them. Now, you might ask, what the heck is a project?
Or even what is this page we're looking at here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So starting off with just the organizational aspect of Dubsado. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so a project so everyone is aware, is a single client interaction. So every time you work with a client on a singular service, that would constitute one project. So that kind of means that depending on the nature of your business, you do have the ability to create multiple projects with a client either concurrently or over time. Now, in terms of what you're all seeing here, oh, I see. Got
Very
it.
good. Just pulling over to the side now. Keep going, Joe. Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
In terms of what you're all seeing here, this project dashboard, there are actually two types of projects. We've got our lead projects, which are essentially folks who have expressed interest in your business or service. So those are all people who have reached out to you in some capacity and have made their way into Dubsado, which we'll talk about.
Exactly.
And then jobs, depending on what you would constitute a converted client, maybe after they had signed a contract or paid a deposit, or in some cases both, you can determine more or less what somebody needs to do to convert from a lead project into a job project.
Exactly. Because it's going to be different for every business. And we know that. So a lot of pieces of Dubsado are like that, where it's going to be customizable, right? It's going to be dependent on what you want to determine is right for your business.
That's right. So to even kind of lean further into that, as Trevor mentioned, the customization aspect of what it means for you, we have these sort of stages here that we call project statuses that are on the top of the screen. These project statuses are meant to iterate sort of a visual pipeline of all the stages that you would like to engage with your client at. So right here, these project statuses that are in the lead project area, these are pretty much all the stages of engagement leading up to before they convert. So after they make that initial point of contact, what are the typical touch points? What are those things that you'd like to identify that they're kind of making their way through your pipeline? And then after they've actually created or converted into a job, what are those stages of fulfillment? What are those checkpoints that you'd like to identify? What is the things that will kind of signal completion for you with a particular client? I will also say, I know Trevor had helped me to sort of build out our account. Another way that we can kind of categorize our clients, apart from where they might sit in a timeline, is using tags. So just to show everyone, we've got these small little dots here that are created that are associated with each project, which are these rows here. So this particular tag is logo design. This particular tag is web design. If you haven't caught on, our demo account is a full suite design service.
Exactly right.
And the context of using tags is specific again to your business. So if there are things that are very categorically specific to you, let's say you're a photographer and you have, wedding shoots, portrait shoots, holiday shoots, you can filter your projects page using tags to kind of get a better lay of the land. Do you think we should dig into this, or
Yeah, go ahead and show them real quick.
Yes, and just so you're aware, this is actually how you create project statuses for your timeline, as well as the tags on the bottom. So when you're creating the statuses individually, you have the ability to specify lead or job, and then very nicely, you can quickly identify what those numbers represent. Maybe you'll see there are people that are stuck in a specific stage or status,
Mhm.
but yeah,
No.
this is your command center, and
Yeah, no, I just love showing this to folks for the first time, especially because if you're coming from a place of where you haven't had any CRM or any sort of organization for new business, this is going to be a game changer for you, right? Just the ability to customize so many of these pieces on this projects page and go from, like I said, maybe like a Google Sheet even, right? And you
yeah.
just have all your clients in there. Being able to look at it in this format is going to be visually so pleasing and organized compared to anything else you're coming from. So I think that if you're someone who is interested in Dubsado and you just wanted to see what this can do for you just off the bat, the organizational aspect of it's going to be a game changer. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're wondering now, what the heck is a project or what does a project look like?
Yeah, why don't we jump into one?
Let's do it.
Cool. So this whole line here is considered to be a project. So I'm just going to click anywhere on this line and I'm going to take a look at Shelly's project here real quick. So inside of Shelly's project, think about it like a digital file folder, right? I just opened this file folder for Shelly. And this project rather, is going to be laid out exactly the same as every other project in your account, right? And it's going to have these tabs here across the top just for organization again, right? It's going to be consistent. So we have emails, invoices, forms, appointments, workflows, tasks, and notes, right? Every project laid out exactly the same way. And the project being kind of your command center inside the command center of where you're going to be doing most of your work with project or with your clients rather, right?
Mhm.
Let's say I wanted to send an email. I'm right here on the emails tab. I could easily click send email and send off an email. We'll talk about canned emails to make sending emails a little easier. We'll talk about
Yes.
that in a little bit. If I wanted to send a form to a client, for example, I'd go into the forms tab and I could go ahead and send out any of my Dubsado forms, for example. Now, we're going to come back and we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive into a project later on once we run a little test in our account here. But for now, I just wanted to give everyone kind of the lay of the land of what we're looking at here as far as the internal organization, just within one project, right?
Mhm.
Each project being associated with one service, right? And one client. Cool.
Just to kind of wrap up what Trevor was mentioning.
Yeah.
Whenever you're looking to take some kind of action with a client, whether it's take an internal note, send a particular item, check on the status of a form as we're seeing here, your first point of thought should always be, let me go straight to their project because everything is already nicely consolidated there.
Exactly right. And if you might be wondering as well, okay, we haven't talked too much about templates. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but you're like, hey, I have some content here, but I need it to be different for Shelly, right? Maybe Shelly has something specific that pertains just to her services. You can customize anything within the project and it won't affect your master templates, which we're going to talk about right now. So again, doing all your work from the project and we can make templates to save you time. Let's jump into that, Joe. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. So there are a whole host of templates that you can create. We're going to highlight a few specific ones we think are most important to set up.
Totally.
I will say the concept of using templates, especially as a business owner, time being your greatest asset, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to provide you the tools to take as much admin labor off your plate as possible. And that heavily involves using templates.
Yeah, I mean, the gigantic piece of Dubsado is saving you time, right? Your business is our business, and we want you to work as efficiently as possible. And that way you can get back to the other things in your life that you love, like your family. And templates are a gigantic way to save you time and to get back to your family, get back to other things as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I will actually go over briefly some of these templates just to mention what they are, and then we'll take a deeper look at a few specific ones.
Cool.
So we've got our scheduler template. We won't touch on that too much, but do know that a scheduler is available, very similar to a Calendly or an Acuity if you're familiar.
Exactly right.
The forms templates you will be using very heavily, which we'll dig into in just a moment. We've got our canned emails, which are essentially email templates. Our packages, which are essentially our line item templates. Those are specifically used to build invoices and something called a proposal, which we're very excited to show you.
Exactly right.
Workflows, which is our term for automating your process.
Yeah, and I imagine that's probably why a lot of y'all are here, right? Dubsado's got some very powerful automations, and we're going to use a very simple one just as an example, but definitely stay tuned for that in a minute.
Yes, it's worth the wait. We've got our payment plans, last definitely not least. This is sort of, as you are billing your clients, you have the ability to sort of break down the overall total into different payment installments, just depending on, what it is you need to accomplish. So Trev?
Yeah, let's jump into it. So I think the first thing we should talk about is canned emails, since everything in Dubsado is going to be email-based communication. And kind of one of the easiest things to take off the list is, hey, I type the same email out over and over and over again. And canned emails is going to save you from having to do that. As you can see here in my account right now, I've got a number of canned emails that are preloaded with every account. So we kind of get the ball rolling for you just off the bat, right? I didn't type any of these out here, but I could easily make my own canned email if I wanted to. So if I wanted to create a new canned email, I can obviously click new canned response, but let's just take a look at this client's check-in response right here. So just to give you an idea, I can template out this email. That way I can automatically populate information into this email easily and then just use it in a project whenever I want to, or even in a workflow, right, to automatically send it out. We're going to talk about smart fields in a little bit as well, but right here at the top, just as an example, right, hi client.firstname. This is just a little chunk of code that's going to be able to populate that client's first name. So if I've typed out all of the copy in my email, I can even insert project or client specific information into that email automatically, right?
Big time saving.
Gigantic time saving. So this one in particular is pertaining to an appointment, right? It's going to be pulling in appointments, start dates and times, as well as an address. And there's innumerable ways you can use canned emails, and there's going to be smart fields that correlates to tons of fields in Dubsado. But the idea being that we're going to basically take any of our existing copy that we're using with our clients on a regular basis and throw them into canned emails so we can use them throughout the system. Canned emails are pretty straightforward than that. That's the idea there, but I think it's an important one to start off with because Dubsado is going to be based on that email communication.
Definitely. Well, our motto is kind of, if you write an email more than once.
If you've written it once, probably deserves to be a canned email.
Yeah.
And there's no limit to the number of canned email templates you can have in here, and they're infinitely useful.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
next one.
Let's do it. So if we go into packages, I want to clarify, it doesn't necessarily mean a bulk service, although it can. Your packages are sort of like building blocks for how you'll either throw together an invoice very quickly, or they're what are specifically placed on a proposal for your client to be able to select from. So any service that has a fixed price in some measure is worth creating as a package. So you'll see we have some examples here of our bulk service packages. We've got our starter, our premier, our elite package.
Go ahead and click into one of those and show them. So we can build these out even a little bit further, right? I just titled that here, but inside that package, right, I just have, in this case, one line item that's worth $5,000 just as an example here. And I've described all the things that the client would be getting. You could add as many individual line items to one package as you like. So if you're somebody who loves to, bundle all your services together into one master package, you could have that as one package and just easily apply that to an invoice in one click.
Very, very efficient.
Exactly right. And if you're somebody who's like, hey, I know this is really common with folks that do interior design, for example, right? You've just got a ton of different a la carte items. That's totally fine. The add-ons here that I have listed are kind of a good facsimile for something like that, where maybe you just have individual services that clients can grab and choose, just like a menu, and you can easily add those into Dubsado as individual packages as well. And even later on, we'll see on the proposal, they'll have no issue adding it onto a proposal, just like an order form, for example.
Exactly. And one of the cool things too is specifically on the proposal, if there are services that need to be quantified, whether it's the sheer quantity of something, or maybe we're judging it by labor hours.
Sure. Yeah.
We can have a client specify that too, which will then affect the total that is going to arrive on the invoice.
Yeah. I see here on the chat, I just noticed Laura was asking about the headings here. That was just a little bit of aesthetic piece that I added on here just because I like to be organized. So you definitely can. I just created a blank package to do that, right? This is just a web design package. And then below that, I can drag and drop these anywhere I like. So if I wanted to reorder these, I totally could. And you can keep this page organized if you like, Lauren, rather. I hope that answers your question. Cool. She says, thank you. Fantastic. Moving right along. What else we got, Joe?
Did you want to talk to him a little bit about the payment plan?
Yeah, let's do that too. I think that parlays nicely into the packages discussion. So
yeah,
let's say you've got a client, right, that wants to pay for your most expensive services. And you're like, let's go, because we love when clients opt into or upsell, right, that most expensive package. But the client's like, hey, I really love these services, but do you think you could break down that high price tag for me? And payment plans are going to be exactly how you can go ahead and do that in Dubsado. So again, these 4 items here that we're seeing on the left-hand side, these are all preloaded into your Dubsado account. They're default payment plans. And on top of the defaults, right, we can add as many different payment plans as we like. You can make a custom payment plan. You could have a payment plan with 12 payments if you wanted to do it over the course of a year, for example. You can use all of our different triggers to time the due dates of these installments out as much as you like. And we can also divide them up by equal payments, for example, like this particular 3 installment example here. We can use percentages, or we could even do something like a fixed deposit, where we have maybe a fixed amount due up front and then the remainder later on, right? There is probably not a payment plan you can think of that we cannot do here in Dubsado. And you can easily build them out using our payment plan creator. If I just click create new templates, I can start adding installments here. I'm not going to build out a full payment plan, but I just wanted to show you it's super straightforward just to start adding payment plans. And then we can use these later on in a simple click on our invoices, or even have a proposal automatically apply these payment plans to an invoice that's created by that proposal. So the automations are everywhere in Dubsado. I know we're going to talk about workflows in a little bit, but even inside of the account, there are so many things that are going to be automating your day-to-day work that you probably might not even think about. That's going to save you time.
Yes.
A couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, it adds up. You'll see.
Especially with something like a payment plan. Trevor just mentioned how there are, apart from the workflows directly, a couple different ways that you can automate things that you might not have thought to do. In this particular instance, of course, at the end of the day, as a business, the primary goal is to make sure that you're getting paid on time.
Exactly.
So one of the things that you can actually automate through the payment plan itself are automated payment reminders.
These are one of my favorite things. They're one of the most useful like automations that Dubsado has that we don't even necessarily qualify as an automation, but it certainly is. So if you were to go ahead and click add reminder there, Joe, we can set up a reminder for this particular installment to be due before, or the reminder rather, to be sent out before, on the due dates, or even after the due date if the client is overdue. And the really, really cool thing about these reminders is that they're smart. I call them smart reminders because they're not going to get sent out if that client has paid by the time that that reminder should have gone out. So for example, right now we have this reminder set up to 3 days before the due date. If that client pays early, let's say they pay 5 days before the due date, then this particular email reminder does not get sent because they paid you already. Yeah. So the reminders are super helpful to help make sure that you're going to get paid on time, or just paid in general. And you can have as many of these reminders on a given installment as you'd like. And they're extremely helpful.
They are. They definitely are. So I would say, as far as the templates in general, the forms are the most, one, brand friendly, but two, heavily used.
Yes, definitely. Let's talk about forms. We're going to spend a little bit more time on the form section here as opposed to the other templates. But like I said, we're going to see kind of a confluence of all these templates in action in just a little bit. So stay tuned.
Yes. So just to kind of paint the picture for what you're seeing here, this is, for lack of a better word, kind of like your form template library, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
So you'll see here that there are 5 columns, which indicate the 5 different types of digital forms that you can create. We've got our contracts and sub-agreements, which are legally binding documents. Our questionnaires, which are great for capturing detailed information. Our proposals, which are, again, is like that digital order sheet, kind of shopping cart brochure kind of situation. And probably most importantly is the lead capture, which is kind of how they end up in Dubsado to begin with.
And we'll talk about that too. I know I keep saying we'll talk about that, but there's just a lot of content to cover and a lot of utility that you can get out of Dubsado. So if you're thinking, oh my God, so much, don't worry. We're going to show you just exactly what you need to know. Take it away with contracts there, Joey.
Sweet. Okay, so just to show everyone, when I click into a form while I'm in my template library, it'll open in what we call edit mode. So you'll immediately see on the left-hand side of the screen, we have a whole host of different what we call form elements that you can either click to place automatically or drag into a specific spot. Now, for a contract particularly, most of the contract are just terms and conditions, scope of work, scope of services, etc. But we all kind of know the most cumbersome part of drafting contracts typically is there's so much that is unique to that client.
Exactly.
Their info, the payment arrangements.
Yeah, you might have a boilerplate contract with your terms and conditions, but how is Jenny's contract going to be different from Jonathan's, for example, right? They might have different payment amounts. They might have different specific terms that you need to customize for them, right? How would we go about dealing with that, Joey?
So Trevor actually kind of teased this already.
But I did. Smart fields.
When we click into a specific text box, these smart fields, these bracketed items here, are things that you can quickly load into any area of a form or an email. And the intention there is for anything that you would typically type in manually. Again, client background info, payment arrangements, scope of work, payment amounts, etc. The idea is I can use this sort of master template, if you will, and wherever there's a smart field present, if I were to, for example, load this into Shelly's project, the beautiful part is that it automatically loads all of Shelly's information where these smart fields are, so you don't have to do any of that customization on the fly.
Exactly right. So since we already know Shelly's name, for example, we know Shelly's email, for example, those pieces of information are going to be automatically loaded into this contract if I were to apply it to her project, right? Because this smart field there is looking specifically for that kind of information. And on top of that too, the really cool one, right? Job invoice total. This is going to pull in the exact amount that she's agreeing to pay, right? So you don't have to go into that contract and, type in how much money she's supposed to be paying to you after she submitted the proposal. And we're going to look at using a proposal, a contract, an invoice in one fell swoop in just a minute.
Probably the most nifty thing.
Exactly. It's fantastic. Cool.
Now, I do want to kind of make sure everyone is fully aware. If you are accustomed to using something like a DocuSign or a HelloSign, we have e-signature compliant contract functions. So do know your client has the ability to digitally sign from whatever device they're using, and it automatically records the date and the IP address. So it is fully legally binding and will hold up in any kind of legal matter. Hopefully, it will never arise.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. But no, it's 2024, folks. We have moved beyond DocuSign. Dubsado's e-signatures are a fantastic way to go ahead and get your contract signed quickly and easily. Your client can do it from anywhere that they like on any device that they like. They can go ahead and sign, and it's a beautiful thing that when it works, right? Like it does not need to be more complicated than send the clients one link, they sign it, and you're good to go.
Pretty much. I mean, apart from that, what else should we mention? Maybe initials?
Yeah, I mean, as well, right? So some folks have an instance where maybe they need clients to initial off on sub clauses or sub agreements within their main contract, and you can obviously add those in as well. Same thing, right? It's going to be able to record that IP address when they finally submit that document there.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the contract, that is sort of like your main terms and conditions. One thing to briefly touch on, the sub agreements, in terms of its legal standing, it has the same e-signature compliance and function. That's just any type of document that you need a legal signature on that is not your primary contract. So
Yeah.
some good examples like a second shooter agreement, an amendment or addendum.
Yeah, maybe your client purchases some of your services and they sign off on your main contract, and then down the road they're like, you know what, I loved working with you, and I'd actually love to tack on these additional services as well. Instead of throwing away the original contract and drafting an entire new one, you might just use sub agreements. Or like the example that we have here on screen is web design proof, right? I might be able to draft my client's website, and I can send them some example photos, and I could go ahead and get them to sign off on that proof that they like the designs. Just an example there.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cool. So the other forms that we have in here, questionnaires. We're not going to look at questionnaires too in depth because we're going to spend the lion's share of our time looking at proposals and lead capture forms. But like Joey mentioned a little bit ago, questionnaires are a great place to add in additional information, right? So once you have somebody in the system, maybe they've already filled out your lead capture form and you need to know a bit more details about their project, you could send them a questionnaire. And then after that, right, like I said, proposals and lead capture forms. So let's talk about the proposal next, since this I would say is probably one of the biggest pieces of Dubsado that just about every single user likes to use. So let's go ahead and click into this one and take a look. So here I've got my 3Dubs design proposal, right? On this particular proposal, right, I'm able to match the branding of my actual websites. And if I click over here, we can see here, right, it matches really nicely with the website that I have made up for this particular industry or this particular brand that I've got going on, right? So I could easily use this proposal to match the aesthetics of what my brand's identity is really about, right? The aesthetics are all there. I've got a nice GIF in the background. I'm able to customize. I can have all my photos and stuff in there, which is really nice. And the most important thing about a proposal is it does act like a digital order form, right? So if I scroll down a little ways, I have all of those packages that we noted earlier, right? In that packages template area added into this particular proposal. Now, proposals are really powerful in the sense that they are in control of creating invoices for you when the client submits that proposal. So if I was a client and I was scrolling through here, let's actually go ahead and drag my little window of that, preview this. If I was a client and I was looking at this proposal, I could go through here and I could read all of the information I needed to read, and I could go ahead and pick a particular package, right? Maybe I wanted to do the Premier package. I could select that. That's going to automatically add that package to an invoice on the back end, right? So as a business owner, you don't have to worry about making an invoice that matches what the client picked on their order form. It's going to do that for you, which is fantastic. Now, if I keep scrolling down, I can even add on maybe something like an add-on, for example, and I can go ahead and click submit at the very bottom, right? That's the general concept with our proposals, is they're able to view all of your services and add as many things as they like, and it's going to create that invoice for them automatically. Now, let's talk about the really nifty part here, which is you can combine this concept with a contract and invoice. I mentioned that earlier. So if I go over here on the left-hand side and go to form settings, I can choose to include the contract. I can choose to include the invoice as well, right? Which is going to show that clients the proposal first, let them pick their items. It's going to then show them the contract to go ahead and get a signature right away. And then it's going to show them their invoice immediately after that. So you can get paid immediately, all in one step. You send the client one link, they can access all three of those items kind of in one step, which is extremely powerful. I know a ton of our users get a lot of utility out of this feature, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the mutual benefit we're talking about, Not only is it a really great experience for the client, they have this nice, very well branded document to kind of make their selection. They can move their way through the steps, sign off on what they had just chose, and then make a deposit or full payment.
Mhm.
But on your end, you don't have to do the whole back and forth of generating the contract, adding those details, generating the invoice, sending that separately. Saves you time, and it's a great experience for your clients.
Yeah. The ability to have all of that back end functionality be super easy for you, as well as easy for the clients. And on top of that, being able to match the aesthetics to any other existing stuff you have out in the world, whether that be your website, social media, all that. It is meant to be very fluid and be able to kind of be cohesive as a brand, right?
And we did get, I shouldn't say we, this is all credit to Trevor.
No, it's fine.
We are not designers or developers by trade. Everything you're seeing in this contract in this proposal required zero code.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I want to emphasize the ease of use in terms of using the form builder, making it look aesthetically pleasing and on brand. It does not require you to have any kind of knowledge of code or HTML, anything of that
There
sort.
is not a single line of code on this particular proposal. Although if you're somebody who is like, hey, maybe I am a developer and I want my forms to go to the 11th degree, right? You can certainly use custom code to customize your forms. And we actually have a pretty robust network of certified specialists that sell form templates that already have code on them, for example. So if you're someone that's like, hey, you know what, forms are really big for me and I love all of the fancy code stuff on your forms, we can definitely do that too. But thank you for mentioning that, Joey. I forgot to say that there's absolutely no code on this form, which is really cool. Fantastic. Anything else in the proposal, Joey? Should we take a look at the lead capture form, which is kind of the beginning of our process?
Yes, let's do that.
All right, cool. So we're going to jump back to all forms here. And I know we kind of worked our way in reverse, right? We started with contracts moving this way, but typically speaking, most people who use Dubsado are going to be using a lead capture form as the beginning of their client journey in Dubsado, at least, right? So lead capture form does exactly what that name implies. It's going to capture your leads, and it does a lot of things for you automatically, just like the proposal, just different things, right? So essentially, when a client is filling out your lead capture form, they're going to be giving you some basic information, for example, like their first name, last name, email, and it's going to basically take that information and create a new client for you in Dubsado, right? It's going to save that information to your address book. At the same time, it's going to make a brand new project for you, right? At the very outset, we were saying, hey, here's your projects page, here are your projects. And you might have been wondering, that's really cool, but do I have to manually enter my 15 or 20 or 50 projects that I'm currently working with? And the answer is no, right? You can easily have a lead capture form on your website or in social media that's going to be able to generate and grab new clients for you, as well as we can show you at the end if people want to see it, the CSV import, right? If you have existing clients, it's super easy to get those folks into Dubsado and make projects. So don't worry if you've got a high workload right now, it's super easy to get going with that. But the lead capture form is going to be your best friend, living on your websites, starting new projects for you automatically, capturing client information. And the coolest thing about lead capture forms is if I go over here on the left-hand side, I have the ability to start what's called a default workflow, right? A default workflow is a workflow that will always start, or an automation that will always start when somebody fills out this form. Right now, since I'm in the form builder view, I don't see a submit button, but it would show there if it was on my, active. And I can actually show you here if I go back over to my contact page. This is a slightly different version of that same form, but right here, if I click submit, that would automatically start that default workflow that we just talked about. So for example, like let's say, I have this on my website and it's bringing in new leads, but I don't want my clients to wait, hours on end for me to get back to them, knowing that that I received their submission. So I can use a workflow to automatically send my clients an email either immediately, or maybe I want it to have a little bit of a delay that says, hey, thank you so much for your inquiry. We'll get back to you right away. And even on top of that, right, that's just one action, but workflows can be as long or as short as you like. And you can have some very powerful automations in Dubsado to go ahead and send forms out automatically, schedule appointments and send contracts, that kind of stuff. But the lead capture form is where it kind of all begins.
Agreed. And one thing to keep in mind too when it comes to lead capture forms, just like Trevor mentioned, not only does it actually create the project on your behalf, if you do assign that default workflow, then it'll also, as he said, start to do that heavy lifting. So those initial touch points, those thank you emails, those coffee chats you want to book, maybe there's a different form you'd like to send for additional information. Those are all things you can build into the workflows that are attached to the actual lead capture form as we had shown here. Another thing to take note of is if you're not someone that has a website, or if you do have a website, but you get a significant amount of leads in other places, like let's say on Instagram or Facebook, Yelp, even Google reviews, do keep in mind, apart from taking this embed code and putting it on like a Squarespace or a Wix site or something like that, The direct link, super handy.
Yeah.
Put it in your bios, save it to your phone. Doesn't matter how they access it. If somebody fills out the form, just like if it were to be on your website, it'll automatically place them into your account as a new project.
Yeah, let me just show them real quick, right? Since this was
Yeah.
a slightly different form than the one that's embedded on my website, but I just copied this direct link. If I go ahead and just open a new tab, throw that direct link in there, this is what the client would see when they open it up. So maybe this was in your Instagram bio and the person's like, hey, I want to work with you, right? They click on this link. This is the beautiful form that they would see after they click that particular link, right? So again, this matches the aesthetics of my website, but it's kind of all the continuity is there, which is fantastic. Cool.
Let's do a little bit of a lead capture demo.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah.
So let's just fill this one out. Why don't we say that? Let's go do that. We got a Q&A.
So what we're doing now as Trevor types things out is we're filling out the lead capture form as a sample client. So we can then show you what exactly happens in Dubsado when the project is created and when the workflow is automatically started on your behalf.
Exactly right. So I'm just entering in test for a lot of these more specific details here. Let's go ahead and pick maybe a real practical date. So let's just say the first, right? I'm gonna do a full web build. Cool. So now that I've entered in my first name, last name, email, some information about myself, the system has some information to go ahead and create a new client, and I can go ahead and say submit. Another cool feature of our lead capture form, so if I didn't do it on that one, I have a redirect. Actually, I should have done it on this one here. This is the one that had the redirect URL in there. But
Yeah.
if I had that set up on that particular form, it would go to this page here. So I could redirect to this page here is what was meant to show.
Nifty. And I
really
know
nice.
Lauren had mentioned.
Oh, yeah?
Lauren, just so you know, you can create lead capture forms for all purposes. Like even if you know you're going to like an industry event, for example, you can create a lead capture form specifically for that event. So you know all people that fill out that particular form come from a singular lead source. So
Yeah.
you know, create as many as you like.
Yeah, and Lauren, that's a really good question. I think here I may have overcomplicated it for folks who are just brand new to a CRM, for example, but I did have two different kind of forms here, and that was by design. This is the one that is just the link in bio, so to speak, because it has all my branding on the form itself. But if I go back to all forms here, and I go ahead and take a look at like my contact page form, this doesn't have any branding on there because the website itself is handling the branding aspect of it. I've just embedded these questions on that page. So it is two different forms, but like Joey was mentioning, you can have a lead capture form for any possible scenario that you like. That is a premier feature, by the way, to have more than one lead capture form. We'll talk about our tiers at the end.
Yeah.
Cool. So I just filled out that lead capture form. Why don't we actually take a look at some of the cool things that just happened when we filled it out, right?
In the project.
Let's do it. So let's go back to our main projects page. So for navigation purposes, we're going back to the start. This is where we first were looking at when we just jumped into the demo here. And right here at the top, Trevor Dubsado website build. This is my new project that was created here, right? Let's go ahead and click into it. So we can see here, right off the bat, I submitted that lead capture form not 2 minutes ago, and I've already sent an email to my client or myself, right? In this case, I asked my clients to go ahead and schedule an appointment with me using our scheduler, right? This is automatically sent using our workflow, which is fantastic. So if we jump over and take a look at that workflow, again, this is a relatively simplistic one, but let's just take a look at some of the possibilities here, right?
Definitely.
We were mentioning at the outset that we have those project statuses that can be customized. In this case, this workflow is taking a look at when they book a discovery call to go ahead and change that project status. So if I go back into the projects page real quick, you can see here, right? When they book that call, I'm telling that workflow to automatically assign that project to my discovery call booked. So as you can see, this is kind of meshing some of these concepts that we've been talking about together, right? We're going to take all these different templates and then we can automate them into this flow. So it's going to automatically keep track of our projects for us, which is really helpful.
Yep.
Going back to that workflow real quick. Let's take a second there. So the last thing that I have in this particular workflow, and again, you could build this out to be much longer, obviously, if you wanted to, and to have your entire process, if you like, is I want to go ahead and send out my proposal automatically at a certain point, right after that appointment ends. If they're a good fit, for example, I could go ahead and send that proposal out. Let's actually take a look at that proposal, since I think seeing that proposal contract invoice combination is one of those seeing is believing kind of things, right?
Agreed.
So this workflow is already responsible for assigning my proposal here. Now, I'm realizing now this is the wrong one, so we'll go ahead and just slap on a different proposal. This is the old proposal, Joe.
Oh,
This is
gotcha.
the new one here. So let's say add. Fantastic. So if I go ahead and say copy this link, let's go ahead and open this in another tab here. We'll take a look at what it looks like.
So this is exactly as your clients would see it. And just so everyone is aware, the way in which somebody would receive any deliverable, by deliverable, anything that they need to either pay or sign or fill out, it's in the form of a button that is customized to your brand color that they simply click on whatever device in the body of the email. So
Yeah. You know, I can show that in the email. You think that would be helpful, Jim?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it. So real quick, go back into Dubsado. Let's just say I wanted to send this, or that workflow sent it out. Right. This is that button that he was talking about. So if I just say send, this is that same link. I could go ahead and copy it from here as well. That's the exact same URL. All it's doing is just a URL in the email that the client can go ahead and click on to fill out. It's going to give them access to all three of these tabs here. Essentially, it's that one link.
Yep.
Cool. Now, you know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and open this in Safari real quick, since I want to make sure we can actually fill it out.
So what Trevor's doing is, because we are testing it as a sample client, we want to put it in a different browser so it doesn't register us as the account owner.
Exactly right. Cool. So this is exactly what my client would see: proposal, contract, invoice at the top here, and I could go ahead and scroll through, right? Now, as the clients, I'm like, cool, this is fantastic. I love all these services. I'm going to go ahead and pick the elite package. I can say select. And then maybe I also want to do an add-on, right? I can pick one of these add-ons. Maybe I want to do logo design. And on top of that, right, this is monthly maintenance, right? This particular option right here is I have a quantity picker, right? So maybe I want to sign up for 2 additional months of maintenance, right? I could toggle that to 2. Now, if I go all the way down to the bottom here, I can go ahead and say submit and next. As you can see, the system automatically added up the grand total of all the things that I picked as the client. So again, as the business owner, you don't have to worry about doing any of the math, making that invoice, none of that stuff, right? It's going to make that for you, and we can say submit next to go directly to our contract.
Notice when reviewing the contract, we at this point in time did not take any extra steps to populate all the information that is client specific.
Yep.
So it's got that $6,000 total. It's got Trevor's information. It's
Exactly
got
right.
the date and time.
Yep.
That's the power of smart fields.
Exactly right. Now, of course, your contract might have a lot more smart fields in it if you have a lot more client specific stuff. This is just a basic example just at the top here, so you can really see it in action of, hey, this is automatically populated. But especially in the terms and conditions, you might have client specific smart fields. You might even have industry specific smart fields. Is that something that we didn't actually mention?
Yeah.
If you have a field that is not native to Dubsado, you can make your own fields, and that correlates to a custom smart field as well. So if you're like, hey, you know what, I'm a wedding planner and I want to keep track of the guest head count, for example, that's not a field that Dubsado has, but you could easily make that and populate that anywhere else.
Definitely.
Cool. So let's just go through here and fill this out real quick as though I was the client. Obviously, I would want to go ahead and read the entire contract if I was an astute client. Make sure we don't just skip through this, and go ahead and initial field here. And then lastly, down here, we'll go ahead and fill it out as well.
As Trevor's filling that out, one thing that I do want to call out is you'll notice there's an additional signature field at the bottom for the business owner. You do have the ability to countersign as a business owner, but it is not mandatory. It's totally up to your discretion.
Exactly right. As you can see, since the system doesn't realize that I'm the business owner, I can't actually click on this. And the reverse would be true in that other tab, right? Where we're saying at the top, hey, it looks like you're logged as the business owner. You would only be able to sign business owner counter signature field. Cool. So now we can go ahead and say agree to submit on this. And lastly, we can see here, this is the invoice that was created, right? And this is just pulling from that proposal that we were using earlier, right? It's taking a look and said, cool, I saw that you had the elite web design package for $5,000. You wanted some logo design, and you also wanted to do a monthly website maintenance for 2 months, right? So we've got our quantity field there as well.
Yeah.
So it's automatically generating this invoice, and the power of this proposal contract invoice step, like I was mentioning earlier, it's taking the client all the way from, hey, what do you want? What kind of services do you want? To signing a contract, to making an actual payment. Go ahead and click pay now, Joe.
Yeah, and you'll notice too, because we have a payment plan that is attached to our particular proposal, it automatically broke down the different installments as well as due dates for the client to easily understand. So as far as we know, we only are liable to pay this first installment. If we click pay now, this is exactly as the client would see it. In this case, we have what we call Dubsado payments powered via Stripe. We'll talk about it a little bit more in just a bit. But just to kind of preface, they can pay via card. They can enter in the card details how they typically would. The US bank account, this is really great for those ACH payments, for those high ticket services. This is something you can encourage your clients to use when you want to make sure you're not accruing too many fees. There's a $5 cap on all ACH payments. And as far as the actual client experience, now, I mean, I should say for me personally, I don't always know my account and routing info on the top of my head.
I definitely don't. There's no way.
But I definitely know my Bank of America login. So that's exactly what the client would do. If they want to pay using their bank directly, the same way they'd log into their, let's say, Bank of America mobile app is the same way they would make payment to you.
Yep. Super nifty. So We'll talk about Dubsado payments powered by Stripe in a little bit more, but just wanted to kind of finish out this example of the proposal contract invoice example. And even here, actually, we can talk about a little bit too. Affirm. I don't think I had Affirm turned on, but we do have Affirm new feature coming into Dubsado. If you're someone who likes the buy now, pay later options, we are also integrated with Affirm now. So we'll get to that in just a little bit more. But hopefully that illustrates the idea of this really powerful option for you here in Dubsado well, just to kind of walk it through one time for everybody. Question in the chat, Kathy was asking if there's a fee for customizations. And Joe, what would you say to that?
Zero fees. I can't express enough that your business, as Trevor said, is our business. When it comes to URLs, the branding, the logos, the letterheads, any kind of form, you have the full capacity to customize everything that is visible to your client. That is not something we charge for. It's something we fundamentally believe in because we want you to look as cohesive and professional from a branding standpoint as possible.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And with that, why don't we jump into settings, Joe, since we're kind of at the end of our actual demo portion here. But I think some of the nitty gritty of like folks might be wondering to themselves, okay, cool, this is all really powerful, but like in practice, like what does this look like? So let's talk about settings.
Yeah, maybe let's dig into emails first.
Definitely.
So, go ahead, Joe. Sorry, he's taking a sip of
water.
All
right. No worries. So, like Joey was just saying, right? So, trying to make sure that your branding is top notch and not charging you extra for it, obviously. But in Dubsado, starting with emails, right? Emails are no different here, right? We're going to be able to connect to your external email accounts to send and receive emails. So it's not coming from Dubsado's email address. It's not going to say Dubsado anywhere in the email for that matter. You're going to go ahead and connect your own accounts. And you can even see in your sent folder in my Gmail, for example, right here, that the emails are being sent from that Gmail account. Likewise, when somebody replies back to you, you'll still get it in your external email account there, and it will be forwarded into Dubsado. So from a branding perspective, right, I have my 3dubsdesign@gmail.com connected. When clients receive emails from me in Dubsado, they have no clue that I'm sending it through Dubsado. They just think, hey, 3dubsdesign is sending me an email. Super nifty. Yeah, tracking pixel.
And bonus points for the track. This is my favorite thing because
you love the tracking pixel, don't you?
You know why? I'm a little bit neurotic where if I'm going to send a follow-up to someone, I would at least like to know if they viewed the previous email I've sent.
Sure. No one likes a double texter, right? So you're like, you know what? If I see that they've read my email, maybe they forgot about it. Everyone's busy, right? So it's totally fine that, you know, hey, they've read it. I can maybe send them a follow-up email. If they haven't read it, maybe you give them a little extra time. Obviously, it's entirely to your taste, but really helpful.
Whenever you're looking at any kind of emails within the project, I didn't mean to cut you there.
No, you're fine. Totally fine.
Below every message you send, it will show when it's sent. It'll show when it's viewed. So you can quickly verify if they've actually seen the last thing you've sent in any capacity.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Cool. Why don't we talk a little bit about CNAME settings as well?
Yeah.
Some of that more customization. So on that same front with kind of having a custom email connected, we can go into our domain names here. So I've actually set this up for this account as well. And I saw in the chat a little while ago, someone was asking about the client portal. Maybe we can use this as an example. But before I get to the client portal here, under the domain names settings area, I can actually set up custom URL mapping, right? So essentially I have my website, right? This is my actual website, 3Dubs Design. I can make all of my Dubsado contents look like it's hosted at my actual website using what's called a CNAME. Now, we're not going to go into the nitty gritty of setting one up, but you can easily see here, right, that I have my custom mapping set up here. And if I were to open the client portal, it's going to look like it's my website. So you see here at the top, it says hello.3dubsdesign.com. So again, from a brand continuity standpoint, it's fantastic. Nothing in your Dubsado account needs to say Dubsado. Your clients never need to know you're using Dubsado at all, right? Just a little aside here, we can actually go ahead and sign in real quick. So that's the person who was asking in the chat about the client portal can see what it looks like. This is just the client portal. This is where all of the content for your clients can be hosted. So your clients can be sent a link to their portal and even set a custom password if you like. That will then host all of the information and content that you've sent them in the past. It can be really handy because, I mean, I'm sure you do too. I get a million emails every day, right? So if you're sending your clients emails and it gets lost in the shuffle, you might go, hey, here's a link to your client portal, bookmark it, check back whenever you need to. It'll always hold anything you need that needs attending to, right? In this case, an open invoice is something that they would obviously want to know about. They need to pay that, right?
Also, projects,
Exactly right.
something to note is if you have multiple projects with a client over the course of time, they can historically just look back on anything that they've exchanged with you.
Mhm.
And to answer Luann's question, you would create the client portal for your client and then send them that information. It's not mandatory to create a portal.
Totally optional. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great way for them to have a singular place to just check anything and everything that you've ever sent them.
And find everything exactly right. And again, right, I customized my banner up here and I set that color. I can even customize this tab here. Maybe you don't like to refer to your services as projects. You can change that little projects tag there as well. So
Yeah.
cool.
Awesome.
All right, not to go too far into that, let's try to jump back over to the settings here. Sweet. On top of that too, you may notice right at the very top, I've got my little favicon for my website there as well. We can customize things like your preview images in your favicon as well. So again, customization is key and there's no extra charge. It's going to be all your brand. And I've said this before, I like to say this, I probably say it too much, but our business is your business.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing here at Dubsado is we want you to succeed genuinely. We really want you to do well. And we want to make your life as easy as possible, save you time. So everything in Dubsado has been kind of constructed with that in mind. And so we're always going to be improving stuff as well to kind of further that end. That's all.
Gotcha. So you might be wondering, there are a few things that you might use externally already that there are possible ways to integrate with Dubsado. So I briefly wanted to go over what the integrations look like. As far as scheduling goes, again, it's that function that we didn't quite talk about too much in depth, but it is very similar to Calendly. I know someone mentioned that in the chat. So it's similar to Calendly. If you wanted to use a Google Meet or a Zoom link, you can connect either one of those here or integrate, if you will. And then as far as bookkeeping and accounting is concerned, we do have some very basic sort of fundamental bookkeeping like features. But if you have more sophisticated bookkeeping needs, we do integrate directly with QuickBooks Online as well as Xero. So it would essentially port all that financial invoice and client info into those respective softwares. And then Zapier.
Yeah. So if you're someone who's like, what is a Zapier? I'll be happy to give you a little background, but I know some folks who are probably in attendance are aware of what Zapier is, but Zapier is another service that allows you to connect disparate software services essentially. So if you're like, you know what, I have some information in my email marketing, for example, that you want to continue using. And that's a good example because Dubsado does not handle email marketing, but you could easily set up a Zap to go ahead and send your client information over to something like MailChimp or Flowdesk, right? That's going to then automatically be able to feed into that system there and send out your emails from over there, right? So we can easily take almost any application and connect it to Dubsado so that if you're like, you know what, I have softwares that I don't want to get rid of, you can easily keep using those and set up some Zaps for those things. But it's a very powerful tool and it's very easy to generate tokens here in Dubsado and get those things linked up.
Exactly. So, just to kind of recap an example with Zapier, let's say you've created a Zap to sync to your, let's say, ConvertKit or MailChimp newsletter.
Yeah.
Whenever you get an inquiry for Dubsado, not only will it create the project in Dubsado, all that automation will take place, but then it will copy, as Trevor said, the contact information for that lead, automatically add it to your newsletter list so you can nurture them in your marketing email sequences.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Cool. All right, I think the last thing we want to talk about here in settings is payments and invoicing, right? We talked a little bit about Dubsado payments and Stripe, but
we did.
Yeah, I think that's something important to call out here is Dubsado payments powered by Stripe is kind of our flagship payment processor. And we're really excited about it because we're going to be adding features to it probably every month or every couple of months, or really often. We're really building it out. So like I mentioned at the outset, we just added Affirm. This is a brand new feature. So currently with Dubsado payments powered by Stripe, you have the ability to accept credit cards. You have the ability to accept ACH payments like Joey was talking about. You can accept Affirm payments. We have another new feature coming out very, very shortly. If you're unaware, I'll let you guys get the email if you're not aware about it yet. Last thing that's on here you might see is surcharging, right? So surcharging is another feature that we've added to Dubsado payments. And I think we're one of the first, if not the first CRM or company in the space to add a feature in like surcharging. And I'm happy to talk a little bit about it. But
yes.
Surcharging is a great way to offset some of your payment processor costs, the costs of accepting credit card payments specifically. So it's going to be able to do that for you automatically depending on your region. And note that it's not available in every region, but if your business is located in a region where surcharging is allowable, you can toggle that on to automatically add that surcharge to payments made through Dubsado payments powered by Stripe. So a really fantastic way to, like I said, offset some of those processing costs, since we want you to make as much money as possible. We want you to succeed, and that's just another way that we're doing it. So yeah, I'll go ahead and show other processors. Right now, you can only see PayPal as an additional processor, which I could totally connect in addition to Dubsado payments powered by Stripe if I want to. I could have those both connected. What we're not seeing right now, simply because we're connected to Stripe, is we do also integrate with Square. So if you're someone who's like, you know what, I'm just not a Stripe person, I use Square for everything else, you can easily connect to your Square accounts instead of Dubsado payments powered by Stripe. Just note that you can only have one or the other connected at one time.
And as far as getting payments concerned, I know we run into these situations sometimes where you have certain payment options that are immediately available, but if your client ever expresses the need to pay via Zelle, or
Yeah,
maybe they're old school, they want to cut you a physical check, whatever the case
exactly.
is, you're always welcome to manually apply that payment, and anything that is automated surrounding it. Trevor did a great job of mentioning those payment reminders that are automated and don't automate if it's already marked as paid.
Yeah.
Even for payments that you're manually applying to the invoice, that will make sure that any reminders that you've set.
Everything will still work the exact same way. It's a really good point. So if you're at an event or you're at someone's property or on location working a job and someone just hands you cash or hands you a check, don't fret. It's not going to mess anything up in Dubsado. You can easily record it and it will act just like an online payment. So no worries there. Last thing on this page I want to talk about briefly that you might be looking at is autopay, right? You're thinking this is all fantastic, but I have maybe a subscription service, or I really like to have my clients on autopay because while payment reminders are fantastic, what's better than getting paid automatically, right?
Yeah.
There's not much better than that. And Dubsado does play very nicely with autopay, right? So on any given invoice or payment plan, you can turn on autopay as long as there's more than one installment and it adheres to a couple other requirements. Clients can go ahead and make a payment and opt into autopay at any time. Then their subsequent installments or even a recurring invoice for that matter can be paid automatically using whatever payment method that they wanted to choose there. So
Pretty sweet.
if you've got services that are on subscription or you just want to have autopay turned on by default, you can have it set to required and have it on optional, but it's very easy to set that up and to get you paid automatically. It's super easy.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I know we've gotten through a ton of content. I think we're just about at the end here, Joe. Why don't we talk a little bit about
Our trial.
kind of why we're here right now? I think actually, let's talk about the trial and then let's talk about the big thing at the end. What do you say?
Big thing.
Yeah, I know. I'm jumping the gun. I'm too excited about our sale here. But yeah, let's talk about this about the trial. So
just so you're aware,
yeah,
the way that we've structured our trial, it's a little different from other softwares you may have used where there's a hard time cap. A lot of people are under the assumption that, oh, does it expire after a week or two or perhaps a month? We know that as business owners, people that have families and other things going on in your life, we don't expect you to master and feel fully confident in using a software like Dubsado in X amount of time. For that matter, the way that our trial is structured is you have 3 what we call test clients, but you can take however much time you need to kind of build out your templates, do a little bit of testing, and feel fully confident in how you navigate and manage your clients in our system. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and choose when you'd like to upgrade, so you can then kind of unleash it to the masses, which flows nicely into our big announcement.
exactly right. So we are having probably our biggest sale ever right now. Biggest sale ever. So let's talk a little bit about our tiers real quick, or our subscriptions first, right? So we have both a starter and a premier plan. Normally our starter plan is $200 a year. Our premier plan is $400 a year, but for Black Friday only, we're doing a 50% off sale off of your first year in Dubsado.
Never done that before.
You've never had a sale that big. So you can get your starter or premier plan half off for your first year. And what's even sweeter than half off, Joe?
So the sweet part here that we really want to specify is we've systematically reduced the price, meaning if you've got a coupon code that your colleague had passed to you or you found it online, slap that bad boy in, apply the coupon code. We actually have one for you because we came prepared. We want to make sure that we can provide some kind of thank you for just being here with us today.
Exactly right.
So we've got a one-time 20% off code called, we should type it.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to throw it in the chat. So
Dubsado in action.
Exactly right. It's all lowercase.
So basically, oh, thank you, Jelena.
Jolie's too fast. You beat us to it. Exactly. Dubsado in action. So what we're trying to say here is that by default, if you are going to go ahead and subscribe during our sale time, you're going to get your first year 50% off. So $100 for your starter plan or $200 for your premier plan. On top of that, you can take an additional 20% off using our Dubsado in action code, which brings you down to, what is it?
So for premier plan,
yeah,
160.
160, exactly right.
Yeah.
You can get our premier plan, our highest tier option for $160 for a whole year in our Black Friday sale. And like I said, I'm really excited about it because we've never done a sale at all like this, and it's a gigantic value. I think that it's a really good time to go ahead and just give Dubsado a try. I know you were talking about our trial, and I think that our trial is one of my favorite things because there's not been a better time to go ahead, and if you don't have a trial account, to go ahead and start one.
I agree.
Like I said, Joey was saying, there is no time limits, and we have a really fantastic customer care team here at Dubsado. So if you are getting going and you watch this demo and you're enjoying all the content and you're enjoying all of the features that we have to offer, but you just need a little bit of help, you can use this little chat bubble here anytime you like to send our customer care team a chat. So Joey and I have both come from the customer care team, and I can say with utmost certainty that we are probably the best in the business as far as customer service is concerned. I'm very proud of our customer service. So I would encourage anybody who's watching right now, if you don't have a trial, to sign up for a trial. There's no credit card required, and there is an unlimited amount of time. And if you have questions, please send our customer care team a chat, and we'll be happy to help you with any question that you do have.
Yep. They will dig into that chat. Just
Exactly.
know they'll dig into your account. Whatever the question is, whatever you're looking to accomplish, they'll help you with it directly.
Exactly right. I know it was on our graphic. I didn't actually mention it, but our sale starts on Black Friday on November 29th at 6 a.m., ends on December 3rd at 3 p.m., all times Pacific. So you've got a couple of days to get that 50% off sale and to use that coupon code. All right.
We got like a few minutes.
Yeah, we've got a couple minutes for some questions. So let's actually go ahead, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I'm happy to turn the share back on if need be, because we can go ahead and show some stuff in Dubsado. Jelena, I know that you've been typing away, flying through these questions, but if there are questions in the chat that we did not get to, I'm happy to circle back and talk about them. I don't see anything in the Q&A. If anybody has questions kind of while I'm looking through the chat here, please go ahead and throw them in the chat. I was kind of keeping an eye on things while we were talking. The chat was blowing up. So I appreciate everyone asking so many questions, because I always love a lively chats, and I love folks who are invested in learning about the system here. But I see a lot of exclamation points. That's always a good thing. Fantastic.
Carol, we really appreciate your enthusiasm.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Lauren, I'm really glad this was helpful. Fantastic. Fantastic. Cool. I'm just going to take a moment here and scroll through some of these other questions. So we'll just see it. Just 1 second here.
While he does that, yeah, just wanted to express some gratitude on both of our parts, because we know that there's all sorts of places you could have spent your time this morning or afternoon, depending where you're at. So thank you for giving us a shot, really just kind of digging into Dubsado with us. We really want to emphasize that regardless of how you choose to go about building out your account, there are resources. If you're a self-study person, we've got a great help center, a whole bunch of different workshops and recorded webinars you can tap into. But if you like that one-on-one assistance, please chat our customer care team. They are really the rock stars of this entire operation.
Fantastic. So Jennifer was asking here in the Q&A if there's any existing or any deals for Black Friday, or if you're an existing client after your first year. So currently we're not offering any additional discounts on annual subscriptions, but if you're somebody who's on a monthly subscription, you definitely can upgrade to a yearly subscription to grab that deal. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that answers your question there, Jennifer. Let's see, we've got a couple of messages here. Let's see.
We will be sending out a recording, by the way, of this webinar. Yeah, that was a question.
We'll go ahead and include the recording in the email, so that you can go ahead and watch this back here. And Desiree loves the way the lead capture proposal looks. I want to say thank you, Desiree, because I put a lot of work into those forms. But like I said, there's no code on those forms. So maybe we'll need to do another form building webinar in the future. Yes. Because I think that answer to your question there, Karen, or not Karen, sorry, Desiree. The answer to your question, Desiree, might be a little bit longer than we have time allotted for to answer your question there. But the key really is to use containers to your advantage.
Full width containers where Trevor very nicely kind of color blocked different parts of the form. Very easy to do. You don't need to know any code, and you can adjust the width, you can adjust the padding, all sorts of things. Maybe there's I'll
just show real quickly what I'm talking about here. So here at the top, right, I have this container elements. I have the ability to manipulate the width of this container as well as the width of the content inside of this container, right? Mm-hmm. And so basically I'm able to layer containers inside of each other. That's really my best recommendation there, Desiree, is to go ahead and set a container. In this case, this one just has a blank background, and then I have a container inside to hold this image as well as the text box. Kind of going throughout, right? This particular container then has my background color, which is that green, and then I've got my other container on top of that. Things like this at the top here. I know this looks real nifty, but it's just a GIF. All I've done with this particular container here is added in the add files section. I've picked a GIF file, throw in there, and it looks really nice as a background. So I recommend using that as your container background to do stuff like that. The last piece here as well, I did use Canva for some of these graphics, right? To have this starter overlaid with this image. just go ahead into Canva to make some graphics there as well. And I just uploaded that as an image there. Cool. Just wanted to give a little brief snippet on how to set up that form there. But I think we have a form builder webinar in our future, Joey.
We
I
do.
know folks love form building. Cool.
And if you're getting a little bit antsy about trying to dig into the form builder before we're able to provide that, I encourage everyone here to go to help.dubsado.com. If you are especially someone that likes to self-study on your own time, if you look up you can type in any particular, phrase, in this case, form builder, and it will show you kind of a list by list, step by step instruction on what all those different form elements are like and how to kind of use it to your advantage.
Definitely. And I know on our YouTube channel, we do already have some content that goes over how to use the form builder, but it's an evergreen topic and I'm happy to do another webinar on that topic again. So we'll get more of that out there very soon. Maybe I'll actually throw in a link to our YouTube channel real quick in case folks wanted to take a look there. That's a good idea. Let's see here.
You're right. Using
That's
5
cool.
different platforms.
That's all right. Apologies, folks. Let's see here. This is a link to our YouTube channel, just for anybody who wants to take a look at the content that we have there as well. Cool.
Perfect.
All right. I think with that, actually, let's answer one last question here for Abel. So Abel was asking about the color of appointments or events in the calendar. The color coding of the calendar is static. There's not any way to change the color coding of the calendar. The yellow events, in my mind, I'm thinking of the orange color. I don't think I have my calendar connected right here, Abel, but if it's a yellow or an orange color, it's going to be an external event. But these colors here on the calendar are static. There's not going to be a way to change those.
Yeah,
Cool.
Basically different items.
Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, am I?
Oh, different properties
Those are
in
falling off there.
Dubsado are automatically assigned specific colors.
Exactly right. Cool.
Lastly, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you one more time for everyone's time here today. We had a really good time. I think this was fantastic.
Just as fun for you all to watch.
Exactly right. So keep an eye out on your email if you want to watch this again. And we hope to see you in Dubsado sometime soon. We hope to see you in chat asking questions sometime soon.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Take care.
See you later.